Jamie, Leon, and Marcus grew up on the rough streets of Liverpool, just like thousands of others. But unlike most, they chose a path that would take them from small-time hustlers to powerful kingpins. Their rise wasn't just about money, it was a battle for survival, loyalty, and control in a world where one mistake could mean the end. This is the untold story of Liverpool's street dealers, the scallies who dared to rule the underworld. Liverpool's streets have always been tough, but in certain neighborhoods, the struggle to survive is a daily battle. These areas, often overlooked and forgotten by those outside, are where many young boys grow up surrounded by hardship. The towering council estates, the cold docks, and the narrow alleyways form the backdrop of a life filled with uncertainty. Poverty grips families tightly, leaving little room for hope or escape. For many children, the usual dreams of football stardom or a steady job seem impossible, drowned out by the noise of sirens and arguments echoing through the streets. In these neighborhoods, a different kind of education takes place, one that doesn't happen in classrooms, but in the school of hard knocks. From a young age, children learn the rules of the streets. Loyalty, toughness, and quick thinking aren't just values, they're survival tools. Parents often work long hours or struggle with their own problems, leaving kids to fend for themselves in an environment where danger lurks around every corner. For some, the temptation of easy money becomes impossible to resist. Drug dealing starts as something small, almost innocent, selling a few cigarettes or something stronger to friends to make a little cash, but what begins as a way to buy sneakers or treats quickly turns into a deeper involvement. The streets reward those who are fearless and ruthless. The boys who once kicked footballs in the park soon find themselves running messages, carrying drugs, or watching out for the police. Violence is never far away. Turf wars between rival groups flare up suddenly and unpredictably. The police are a constant presence, conducting raids and arrests that can shatter families and futures in a moment. Despite this, the allure of the drug trade, the promise of status, power, and fast money keeps pulling young dealers deeper into the underworld. This harsh world shapes the men who will later rise to become key players in Liverpool's drug scene. Their stories are not just about crime, but about the environment that created them, a place where childhood ends early and the fight to survive begins. What starts on the streets of Liverpool is a dangerous journey into a world few outsiders ever truly understand. Starting out in the drug trade is rarely glamorous. For the young men who grow up in Liverpool's toughest neighborhoods, it often begins with small deals, just a few grams of weed or a handful of pills sold to friends or people they know. At first it's more about making a little extra money than anything serious. The thrill of having some control, being someone who others look up to, quickly becomes addictive. These early deals don't come without risks though. The streets are unpredictable, and trust is hard to come by. One wrong move could mean losing everything or worse. Most of these young dealers start as part of a crew, working under someone who has more experience and control over the local drug supply. They learn the rules quickly, how to avoid police, how to spot undercover officers, and how to handle disputes without attracting too much attention. Many start as runners or lookouts, carrying drugs from one place to another or warning others when trouble is near. This is their training ground, a dangerous classroom where mistakes can be costly. Even at this early stage, violence is never far away. Rival groups are always looking for an advantage, and fights can break out over territory or customers. Sometimes police raids force dealers to scatter, losing money and product in a heartbeat. Arrests are common, and jail time becomes a real possibility for any involved. Still, quitting isn't easy. The money is too good, and for many, it feels like the only way out of the dead-end lives they've known. As they gain confidence, some dealers take bigger risks. They start selling larger quantities or move into different drugs that bring in more cash but also more danger. With every step up, the stakes get higher. More money means more enemies, but it also means more respect on the streets. The transition from a small-time dealer to someone who controls a corner or a block is filled with tension. Trust is rare, and betrayal is a constant threat. These early experiences set the stage for what comes next. The small deals, the lessons learned, and the risks taken all build the foundation for a life deeper in the underworld. A world where ambition can either destroy you or make you king. As the young dealers gain experience, they realize that moving up in the drug trade isn't just about selling more drugs, it's about building connections and earning protection. The streets are dangerous, and going it alone is a quick way to get caught, or worse, joining a crew or gang becomes essential for survival. These groups offer more than just muscle, they provide networks, information, and a kind of twisted family. Being part of a crew means sharing profits, but it also means sharing risks. In these crews, younger dealers learn how the business really works. They observe the older, more experienced criminals, who run things with careful planning and ruthless efficiency. They see how deals are arranged, how disputes are settled, and how power is maintained. Trust is scarce, but respect is earned by showing loyalty and toughness. Climbing the ranks isn't just about selling drugs, it's about proving you can handle pressure, keep secrets, and enforce the rules. Territory is everything in this world. Control over a block or a street corner means access to customers and influence over other dealers. The crews fight fiercely to hold on to their turf. When a rival group tries to take over, violence erupts, sometimes sudden and brutal. These battles for territory aren't just about money, they're about pride and survival. Losing ground means losing power, and sometimes losing your life. As the dealers climb higher, they start managing not just sales but entire operations. They organize supply chains, arrange deliveries from suppliers, and oversee teams of runners and street dealers. Their lives become more complex, juggling the constant threat of police surveillance and rival gangs. Some learn to stay under the radar, while others attract attention with flashy displays of wealth. The pressure mounts from every side, but ambition drives many to take bigger risks. They push to expand their influence beyond their neighborhoods, building connections with other crews or even international suppliers. At this stage, mistakes can be fatal, and betrayal lurks around every corner. The street education is harsh, but for those who survive, it's a path toward power that few ever escape. The ladder to the top of Liverpool's underworld is narrow, dangerous, and unforgiving, and not everyone makes it. With power comes danger. As these dealers climb higher in Liverpool's drug trade, their lives become a constant battle against enemies and the law. Controlling territory and customers brings wealth and status, but it also makes them targets. Rival crews are always waiting for a chance to take over their turf, and the police never stop looking for ways to break their operations. The fight to stay on top becomes brutal and relentless. Violence is used as a weapon to protect the empire. Dealers hire enforcers to intimidate competitors and silence those who might betray them. Street fights and drive-by shootings erupt over disputes that could have started from a single insult or a missed payment. The threat of violence hangs over every deal, and sometimes innocent bystanders get caught in the crossfire. The dealers know that showing any sign of weakness could invite disaster, so they become hardened and ruthless. At the same time, some begin to enjoy the rewards of their risky lifestyle. Expensive cars, designer clothes, and luxury nights out become symbols of success. These displays aren't just for themselves. They send a message to rivals and the community about who is in charge, but beneath the surface, the pressure builds. The stress of constant danger and the fear of arrest or betrayal weigh heavily on their minds. Police efforts to dismantle these drug empires intensify. Undercover operations, surveillance, and informants increase the risk of getting caught. Arrests and convictions can break up crews overnight, leaving power vacuums that spark even more violence. Dealers constantly adapt, changing routines and using new tactics to avoid detection. Still, the risk of losing everything remains high. The combination of wealth, power, and danger creates a volatile world where one wrong move can end a kingpin's reign. Some dealers become obsessed with control, making enemies along the way. Others begin to question if the lifestyle is worth the cost. But for many, there is no turning back. The promise of money and respect keeps them trapped in a cycle of violence and fear, where every day could be their last. Behind the public image of power and wealth, many dealers live a hidden double life. To the outside world, they might seem successful or even respectable, but at home, things are very different. They try to keep their criminal activities secret from family and loved ones, knowing that discovery could bring heartbreak or danger. This constant need to hide who they really are creates tension and isolation. Many dealers struggle to balance their two worlds. By day they might appear as ordinary men, holding down jobs or spending time with family. But by night, they return to the streets, dealing drugs, managing crews, or planning their next move. This double existence takes a toll on their mental health. Paranoia sets in as they worry about police surveillance or rival gangs seeking revenge. The stress leads to sleepless nights and constant fear of betrayal. Relationships often suffer the most. Partners and children may sense something is wrong, but don't know the truth. Some dealers try to protect their loved ones by keeping them in the dark, while others face confrontation when secrets come out. The strain causes arguments, breakdowns in trust, and sometimes violence. Friendships change too, as loyalty is tested and suspicions grow. Many dealers wear masks, pretending everything is normal, while hiding the chaos beneath. Some turn to drugs or alcohol themselves to cope with the pressure. Others become more isolated, trusting fewer people and retreating into a world where danger feels normal. The line between the street and home blurs, making it harder to escape the life they've built. Despite these challenges, few find an easy way out. Leaving the drug trade means risking retaliation from former partners or losing the income that supports their families. For some, the fear of starting over is as strong as the fear of staying trapped. This chapter reveals the hidden cost of the lifestyle, the emotional pain and loneliness that come with living a double life. Behind the flash and violence, there are real people struggling to hold on to what little normalcy they have left. The delicate balance of power within Liverpool's drug scene was shattered by a shocking event that no one saw coming. An unexpected arrest sent shockwaves through the underworld, revealing cracks in the alliances that had seemed unbreakable. The dealer taken down was not just any player, he was one of the most trusted and feared figures, a man who had built his reputation on loyalty and strength. His capture exposed secrets that many believed were safe, turning the underworld upside down. What made the arrest even more devastating was the betrayal that followed. It wasn't the police investigation alone that brought him down. One of his closest lieutenants had turned informant. This betrayal cut deep, unraveling years of trust and loyalty. The informant's decision sent ripples across the city, causing paranoia and fear among other dealers. No one knew who could be trusted anymore. Friends became enemies overnight, and alliances shattered as suspicion grew. This moment marked a turning point for Liverpool's drug trade. The fall of such a powerful figure created a vacuum, sparking violent struggles for control. Rival crews moved quickly to claim lost territory, and old rivalries reignited with new intensity. The violence escalated, pushing the city's streets into chaos. Police pressure increased as well, seizing the opportunity to tighten their grip. Yet, despite the crackdown, new leaders emerged, eager to fill the gap and prove their dominance. The betrayal also highlighted the fragile nature of trust in this world. Loyalty, once considered a core value, now a fragile alliance, had turned informant. This betrayal cut deep, unraveling years of trust and loyalty. The informant's decision sent ripples across the city, causing paranoia and fear among other dealers. No one knew who could be trusted anymore. Friends became enemies overnight, and alliances shattered as suspicion grew. This moment marked a turning point for Liverpool's drug trade. The fall of such a powerful figure created a vacuum, sparking violent struggles for control. Rival crews moved quickly to claim lost territory, and old rivalries reignited with new intensity. The violence escalated, pushing the city's streets into chaos. Police pressure increased as well, seizing the opportunity to tighten their grip. Yet, despite the crackdown, new leaders emerged, eager to fill the gap and prove their dominance. The betrayal also highlighted the fragile nature of trust in this world. Loyalty, once considered a core value, now a fragile illusion. The fear of being betrayed made dealers more cautious, more secretive. It changed how they operated. Trust was given only to a select few, and even then with hesitation. The underworld became colder, less predictable, and far more dangerous. This chapter reveals how one arrest can ripple through an entire criminal network, changing everything in its wake. It shows the price of betrayal and the fragility of power in a world where loyalty is often just a mask for self-preservation. The story of this turning point is a reminder that in the drug trade, no one is untouchable, and nothing stays the same for long. At the height of his power, the dealer ruled over half of Liverpool's drug trade with an iron grip. He was feared and respected, his name whispered in both admiration and dread. His empire stretched across neighborhoods, controlling supply routes and street corners. He lived surrounded by luxury, a sharp contrast to the streets where he grew up. But the higher he climbed, the more dangerous his position became. His downfall was as dramatic as his rise, shaped by ambition, mistakes, and betrayal. For years he managed to stay one step ahead of the law. He built a network of trusted lieutenants, carefully divided his operations, and used layers of secrecy to protect himself. Still, cracks began to show. The very people he relied on started to question their loyalty. Greed and fear turned allies into enemies. Some saw an opportunity to take his place, while others feared the increasing pressure from police investigations. Mistakes piled up. A poorly planned deal, a missed warning, or a careless conversation was enough for the police to close in. Surveillance increased, and undercover officers infiltrated parts of his operation. His confidence began to waver, but his pride kept him pushing forward, unwilling to show weakness. Meanwhile, the violence around him escalated, with rivals testing his control and law enforcement tightening their noose. Ultimately, it wasn't just the police that brought him down. It was betrayal from within. Someone he trusted most handed over critical information that led to a major raid and his arrest. The empire crumbled almost overnight. His lieutenants scattered. Territory was fought over, and the balance of power shifted once again. The fall was public and humiliating. The kingpin who had seemed untouchable was now behind bars, facing long prison sentences. His story became a cautionary tale about the dangers of ambition in the drug trade. Power can be fleeting, and even the strongest empires have weak points. This chapter uncovers how quickly fortunes can change in the underworld. It shows that control is never guaranteed, and that betrayal often comes from those closest to you. The rise and fall of this kingpin is a stark reminder of the price of living on the edge of crime. With the old kingpins behind bars or out of the picture, a new generation of dealers began to take over Liverpool's drug trade. These young men grew up in a world shaped by the violence and chaos left behind. But they brought fresh ideas and new tactics. Technology became their biggest advantage, changing how drugs were sold and distributed. Unlike their predecessors who dealt mostly face-to-face on street corners, this new wave used phones, encrypted messaging apps, and social media to stay one step ahead of the police. The new dealers were smarter about avoiding attention. They used burner phones, coded language, and secret meeting spots to keep their activities hidden. Some ran small operations disguised as legitimate businesses, making it harder for law enforcement to detect them. Social media helped them connect with customers and advertise their products discreetly. This digital shift made the drug trade faster and more efficient, but also more complex and harder to track. However, the dangers remained the same. Rivalries and turf wars didn't disappear, they just took new forms. Conflict sometimes moved online, with threats and challenges posted on social media, escalating tensions. But violence still erupted in the streets, reminding everyone that this world was far from safe. These young dealers faced the same risks of arrest, betrayal, and death as those before them. Many in this generation grew up seeing the consequences of the drug trade, the arrests, the broken families, the violence. Yet for some, the lure of money and status was too strong. They believed they could do things differently, avoid the mistakes of the past, or rise faster, but the cycle often repeated itself. Some ended up behind bars, while others disappeared or were killed in gang-related incidents. This chapter shows how the drug trade evolves with each generation, adapting to new technology and circumstances. It's a dangerous game that continues despite efforts to stop it. The new dealers may look different, but the risks and stakes remain as high as ever. In Liverpool's Underworld, the story never truly ends. It only changes players and tactics. Not every dealer stays locked in the dangerous world of drugs forever. Some find themselves trapped in a cycle they desperately want to escape, while others see a way out and fight to leave the streets behind. But leaving the drug trade isn't easy. It often means risking everything they've built and facing threats from former partners who won't let them walk away without a fight. For those who try to break free, the path is filled with obstacles. The lifestyle has shaped their identity, their relationships, and their daily habits. Some struggle to find legitimate work after years in crime, facing stigma and limited opportunities. The money they made illegally disappears, replaced by uncertainty and hard choices. Many battle feelings of guilt, regret, and loss, haunted by the people they've hurt or lost along the way. Some dealers manage to turn their lives around. They find support through community programs, family, or personal determination. These stories of redemption are rare but powerful. A reminder that change is possible, even from the darkest places. Those who succeed often become voices against the drug trade, warning others about its dangers and working to prevent younger generations from following the same path. Unfortunately, not all stories end with hope. Some who try to leave face violent retaliation, or find themselves drawn back into the lifestyle by circumstances beyond their control. Others fall victim to addiction, unable to escape the very substances they once sold. Tragic endings are common, with some dying young or ending up back in prison. This chapter reveals the human side behind the headlines and crime statistics. It shows the struggles of men trying to reclaim their lives and the heavy toll the drug trade takes beyond just the money and violence. The stories of redemption and tragedy remind us that beneath the reputation of dealers are real people facing impossible choices. Leaving the streets is not just about quitting crime. It's about healing, rebuilding, and finding a new path in a world that often seems determined to pull them back in. Liverpool's drug trade is often seen as a story of crime and violence, but beneath the surface lies a more complex reality. The people involved are shaped not just by choices, but by circumstances they were born into: poverty, broken homes, and limited opportunities. This chapter looks beyond the headlines and the arrests to reveal the human stories behind the underworld, challenging viewers to understand the deeper causes of the cycle of crime. The dealers who rise through the ranks are often young men trying to survive in a harsh world. Their actions may be wrong, but they are driven by desperation, ambition, or a need for respect. For many, the streets offer the only chance to escape poverty and hopelessness. The fast money, power, and status are tempting in places where legitimate paths seem closed off. These are not just criminals, they are products of their environment. At the same time, the violence and danger that come with this lifestyle affect entire communities. Families lose loved ones, children grow up too soon, and neighborhoods live under the shadow of fear. The drug trade feeds on these conditions, creating a vicious cycle that's hard to break. Law enforcement and community efforts struggle to keep up, but the problems run deep. This chapter also reflects on the future. The new generation of dealers is changing the game with technology and new methods, but the core issues remain. Breaking the cycle means more than arrests. It requires addressing poverty, education, and social support. It means giving young people real choices and hope beyond the streets. The untold truth of Liverpool's drug trade is not just a story of crime, it's a story of survival, loss, and the struggle for a better life. By understanding the human side, viewers are invited to rethink their assumptions and consider what it will take to truly change the city's underworld. The cycle of Scally to Kingpin may continue, but the question remains, can the next generation find a way out before